In the midst of multiple tag fighters being announced, out of nowhere this year, Avatar Legends the fighting game got announced. And this past weekend was the first time that people got to actually try the game. Now, I've had a theory for a while that pretty much every fighting game is going to fall into one of two categories. One is the legacy fighter. So think of games like Street Fighter, Tekken, or Guilty Gear. There will be new versions of these games, Street Fighter 6, Tekken 8, Guilty Gear Strive, but these are long-running fighting game IPs. Street Fighter being the OG, really, Tekken and Guilty Gear also being from the 1990s. The other type of fighting game that will generally come out are licensed IP fighters. So you're thinking of games like Dragon Ball FighterZ or Marvel vs. Capcom. And Avatar falls into the latter category. It's unique because it's from a licensed IP that we don't generally see, and we pretty much have not really seen for a fighting game, at least off the top of my head. The main example you would see is Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl, a platform fighter. But Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl is a crossover platform fighter where Avatar Legends is focused only on Avatar, which leads into what is unique about the game. So for starters, Avatar is a 1 vs 1 fighting game, which is already unique because, again, a bunch of fighting games being released are all tag fighting games, 2v2 or 3v3, or in the case of Marvel with Tokon, 4v4 fighting games. And people joked about this looking like a Flash game, but when you actually boot up the game is actually quite pretty and it draws you in, I think. It's charming in its own way. I actually think this game has an advantage over Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl because since it's focused only on Avatar, they have a lot more they could actually work with and focus on for this game. They can use fitting music, locales, and voice lines, which is kind of surprising. You have to mention the last one, but I do remember a big thing that people were complaining about when Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl came out was the lack of voice lines. This game is a 4-button fighter, and it has A, B, C, along with flow, which is D or F if you're feeling some type of way. Despite only having 3 attack buttons, the game has a hefty set of system mechanics and a fat move list as the game throws system mechanics at you from the jump. Now, the attack buttons are pretty straightforward, and your character probably has command normals, probably with follow-ups. So Korra, the character I played the whole time, she has back C here, and this has a C follow-up where she flips off. She can dash off it by using the flow button, and she has a couple of kicks here by using A and B. Also notable is that you could whiff cancel your light. This is definitely a choice. If you play Dragon Ball, you're probably sour on this. I kind of had mixed feelings, but I didn't think it was a big deal when I actually played matches. Now, the real thing that's new here, and the main thing that's gotten many fighting game players talking about the game after kind of assuming they were going to pass over it, is this button, the flow button. So when you actually press it, you don't really do anything. But if you do a direction and the flow button, your character will do a character-specific movement. Now, the game does have a normal dash and backdash, and you're able to dash multiple times. So if I dash, right, or backdash. But as you see, you don't go that far when you dash, or especially backdash. But when you use flow, for example, forward flow, I go jetting across the screen. Or if I do back flow, I go sliding across the screen. I can also do down flow and do a slide. And you can also cancel different movements into each other, and these are also character specific generally. So in Korra's case, you could do the forward flow and cancel it into a special back flow follow-up. Now, doing the actual movement doesn't cost anything. You can just do it. But when you cancel it into another flow movement, you use the bar right under the life bar, those 4 little chunks. And it doesn't really cost a lot either. Now, if you've heard that movement is really freeform or open in this game, it's definitely because of the flow button. It's pretty fun to explore what's cancelable into what and how to use it. So for example, she has this low slide, and this actually goes under projectiles, and while expensive, there is an anti-air follow-up that you can do while sliding under projectiles. Pretty cool. In general as well, flow is cancelable into jumps and special moves. So you can be pretty explosive when you want to be, or where the situation calls for it. Now, if you aren't holding direction, you do this like breathe in place. The game calls it meditation, I think. So when you do this, you parry everything in place, but your meter drains quickly. In exchange though, you build EX ores for doing this, so if nothing happens, it's a small way of advancing the game. Next, we have to talk about supports. So the character select screen actually baits you a little bit into thinking the game's a 2v2, because when you pick a character, it asks you to pick another character. But in reality, this is more like a groove or a variation or a moon, depending on what fighting games you know. And each one of these supports change something about what the character does. So for example, I messed around with 2 of the 3 core supports: better flow movement and longer avatar state. I only put a small amount of time into cheaper EX moves. So it is important that when you pick a character, you go to the command list and you go to the mechanics to actually see what the character's support characters do down here. So for example, cheaper EX moves sound pretty simple. You actually spend less EX meter on this, but it also has the extra effect of letting you attack after the follow-up to this slide. So she could do this, where another Korra variant will not be able to do this. Better flow movement is not exactly what it suggests. You might expect that you go like further on these or these, something like that. But what you actually find is that it turns her forward flow into something more akin to drive rush, where you can attack very quickly out of this and this, which is specified in the command list. Her third one, longer avatar state, is quite the understatement. So you do need EX bar, so you need 4 to do supers, and one of her supers is the ability to go into this avatar state. And when you're in longer avatar state, when you do the super, you stay in this state for the rest of the round. And among other things, she gets the ability to air dash, where this flow is normally a follow-up to other flows, and you can use this flow after air normals. So you could do something like this where she can't normally do it. This support also has another effect around when she auto activates for a little bit when she's losing, but make sure that you go into command list and actually read what each ones do, because the names don't totally tell you what they actually do. Your matches will be a combination of trying to control space, trying to read your opponent's neutral so you can counter with something like a special property, something like a low profile, or maybe something that goes over something, using aggressive movement and passive movement. Flow is a little hard to learn how to use. My issue was that since everything I heard about the game, because I didn't actually play it as soon as they opened it up, I actually waited a little bit to see what people were doing before I actually booted up the game. And everything I was hearing was how open and freestyle the movement was, which got me hit in the face so much because I didn't understand the individual rules of how movement worked, and the fact that you can't air block in this game. So it's not like you can literally just move. You have a lot of movement options, but you need to try to like contain your opponent and like choose the right spot to try to guess to go under something or go over something. And despite all the varied movement options, the technical safest one is actually just dash and backdash, and pretty much everything else can be hit. But on the other hand, the combo system is basically do whatever up until 35 hits. So there's a lot of freedom there for people who like exploring combos. So here's an avatar state combo, for example. Now, technically, she could do more than this. The problem is, eventually, it seems that some type of gravity scaling exists in the game, and that red message, the flow escape okay, also exists to kind of end the combo. And just from my personal experimentation, I haven't really asked a lot of people about it. It seems around 35 hits is the limit for what you can do. I don't know what the escape looks like because I haven't seen anyone go over this limit, nor do I know if there's some type of like Skullgirl style reset you can do around this. Training mode is pretty bare bones in the alpha, you know, can't blame them, it's an alpha. But at least I know for sure there's something that gets you out of combos after a while that prevents infinites for now. Defense seems fine too, so not only is there like a dedicated guard cancel, expensive but it's there, but you could also use the flow button out of block stun. So if there's something that you know it can be low profiled normally or something, you could flow out of block stun and just go under it. This actually reminds me of doing like super dash out of block stun in Dragon Ball, for example. So I'm kind of familiar with this, and it's a pretty interesting dynamic between the attacker and the defender. So I think this makes for a game that is pretty focused on neutral, and the main time things aren't like happening is when someone's getting comboed straight up, as it doesn't seem that offense could be extended really, especially because you have a parry that beats everything and you can flow out of block stun. The most you would get is someone ending offense in a non-committal way, and then the two of you kind of like, all right, so what are you gonna do? I know you have an advantage position because my back's to the corner, so what's up? Like you see it in a lot of other games. I'm not gonna lie, the game grew on me too, so it was really counterintuitive to learn because again, they throw a lot of mechanics at you, and the move list is not like simple. It actually, there seems to be more moves than you would expect from a game that looks like this, and a 4-button game, and a lot of them is movement on top of that. But I find the more you play, the more you just get used to it, and I found myself revisiting the move list pretty often after playing a set and be like, I could have done this here, I could use this here, which is always a pretty good feeling when you're learning a game. I'm also a fan of picking the right thing for the right situation. At least from my perspective, a lot of like the free-flowing movement could be kind of stopped if you position yourself the right way, or also if you pick not engaging, because you could use parts of the flow movement to just get away from a situation, which is nice. I also heard a lot of anti-airs are weak, which I found interesting because you can't air block in the game. So technically, everything you use can be used as an anti-air if you just position yourself the right way or choose to eject. But all these things combined made the game feel both fast and slow, which is nice. So out of things I didn't like, I'm not really a fan of auto combo whiff, but I didn't feel like it was that big of a deal except for Katara, because she has these big water whips that she uses on you. And no air block did make it feel weird to play at the beginning, but again, that was more of my thing because everyone was like, oh my god, the movement is so crazy in this game. I did feel like the input buffer is pretty big. So what I mean is the game accepts inputs in a really liberal way, which is kind of annoying, especially like depending on how you press buttons. The main thing that I got by accident was I would get this a bunch when I actually wanted to do something with flow. I don't think it's that big of a deal for the majority of players though, just something I found personally that came up and also would probably go away if I played a game more. Probably the biggest thing was I didn't really feel like there was a character for me. Korra is a simple and fun character, but I definitely would like to see more. Now, I believe the game is launching with 12 characters, so times 3, because every character will have 3 variations, and that should be 36 options total for characters to play. The variations definitely matter a lot. You're going to play neutral differently, you're going to be comboing differently, you're going to be making different choices differently. And this should be pretty good for exploration. My main concern with this game is one that I share for a lot of system-forward games. So think of like Street Fighter 6 or Uni or like that style of game. They look really technical and deep, and the game shows it to you immediately. They're like, look at all this stuff, look at all these bars, look at all these things you got to do. And people love it at the start. But once the game actually comes out, there's a lot of people quickly go to, all you do is make this choice around this resource, or why don't you just pick this character and force this choice around this universal resource over and over, which I never think the game actually is. I had a comment where someone's like, all Street Fighter 6 is like low forward into drive rush, and my question was, does Zangief do low forward into drive rush? Basically saying like, I don't think the game is literally just that, but people tend to just like focus on like one thing that's really annoying. And for system focused games, because everyone has that system, people are really quick to shut down the whole game because of that. That being said, I think Avatar has a couple of things to fight back against this. So one, the universal resource is for movement, and everybody moves differently. So while they'll have the same general forward, back, and down, not everyone has air stuff. Everyone has follow-ups and stuff in different ways. And 2, it's not that expensive to use on movement either. If you look at Qatar's bar, canceling barely costs a third of your bar, so you actually get a lot of usage out of it. It also, because of the rules around moving, I don't think it'll be so centralizing, but also we don't have all the characters, so it's hard to say for a game like this. But overall, I had a pretty good time. The game really did grow on me, and I would find myself going in this cycle of, man, like, what do you do about this? It feels like I can't do anything, and I would figure out like a way to move around something or a way to like preempt something. I found the game to be actually more fun than I was expecting. I just need some more characters to try. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. If you got to try the game too, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you want to support me, you can hop on Patreon. We have free videos for fighting game tips there. I'm working on a footsies handbook for anime games. That's like my new pet project right now. And also, if you're a paid member, you get access to early videos and just stuff behind the scenes that you wouldn't get normally. I stream most weekdays on Twitch and also YouTube now. We got the multi-stream going now. So we're doing the all characters of Vanquisher and Guilty Gear, so you can check that out. That's here, and also twitch.tv/LordKnight. Any coaching, I do coaching on metafy.gg/@LordKnight, primarily Guilty Gear, of course. And also, while we stream, we do videos for the second channel, LordKnight Chronicles, so check that out too when you get a chance. Like and subscribe if you guys feel like it, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.